the superpower that became a cage, and how faith unlocked the exit. Let me tell you something nobody warns you about when you're busy being strong. Nobody tells you that the armor you built to survive can become the very thing that keeps you locked away from living. Nobody tells you that the cape you wore so proudly, so necessarily, can get so heavy that one day you wake up and realize you forgot how to take it off. And nobody, absolutely nobody, tells you that the same strength that saved you might also be quietly suffocating you. I recently sat down with Kelly Langford, and honestly, calling her inspiring feels like an understatement that borders on disrespect. Kelly's the kind of woman who takes the kind of pain that would flatten most people, the kind that makes you question if the sun will ever rise again, and she transforms it into a lifeline for others. She's the founder of the Fun Violence Brunch, a free annual event she hosts every October for anyone who has lost a child or loved one to gun violence or to any form of violence or tragedy. This October will mark her 6th year, and what began as one woman's raw, aching need to turn her grief into something good has become a growing movement of collective healing. Kelly Langford doesn't just survive tragedy, she refuses to let it have the last word. She's rewriting the narrative on resilience, faith, and what it means to build purpose out of pain. And today I want to share what she taught me, because what Kelly knows, what she lives every single day, is that healing isn't a straight line, that softness isn't surrender, and that God's strength can unlock a resilience you never even knew existed inside you. So let me start here. We live in a world that worships endurance, especially if you're a Black woman, especially if you've been taught that survival is the baseline expectation, that holding it together is not optional, that falling apart is a luxury reserved for people who don't look like you, who don't carry what you carry. So we do what we've been trained to do. We carry it all, the grief, the anger, the post traumatic stress that nobody wants to name, the depression that we smile through, the anxiety that hums under our skin like a second heartbeat. We carry it with a scripture on our lips, a smile on our face, and an I'm fine that we've perfected into an art form. But here's the thing, and this is what Kelly Langford knows in her bones: survival mode was never meant to be a permanent address. It was supposed to be a rest stop, not a residence. And yet, so many of us have been living there so long, we've started calling it home. Kelly knows this intimately. She lived through a divorce that didn't just end a marriage, it shattered her sense of stability, her understanding of what her life was supposed to look like. And then, in a cruelty that feels almost unbearable to say out loud, she lost her son to murder. The kind of loss that doesn't just break your heart, it obliterates your entire understanding of safety, of fairness, of how the world is supposed to work. But in the middle of that unimaginable pain, Kelly discovered something most of us spend our whole lives running from. She discovered that real healing, the kind that actually changes you, requires you to stop performing strength and start practicing softness. And that's where faith enters the room. Not the kind of faith that's performative or sanitized for social media, not the kind that pretends pain doesn't exist or that prayers erase trauma. I'm talking about the kind of faith that whispers in the darkest hours when you can't see your hand in front of your face. You're still here. That means something. The kind of faith that doesn't make the pain disappear, but holds you steady while you learn to breathe through it, while you learn to live with it, while you learn to transform it. Let me tell you about Gabrielle Brown. She was featured on Soft Girl Era, and her story is one of those that just it stays with you. Gabrielle navigated devastating personal losses, the kind that come in waves one after another until you're not sure you'll ever find solid ground again. She faced overwhelming grief and trauma from multiple losses, battling isolation and emotional turmoil that looked a lot like PTSD and depression, the kind of pain that makes you want to close the curtains and never let anyone see you again. But Gabrielle did something that most of us are terrified to do. She embraced vulnerability, not as weakness, as strategy, as survival, as revolution. She leaned into faith not because it made everything better overnight, but because it gave her something to hold on to when everything else felt like it was slipping away. She built community. She shared her story on a national platform, not because she had all the answers, not because she'd figured it all out, but because she knew that someone somewhere needed to hear that survival could become thriving, that breaking didn't mean broken, that you could fall apart and still be whole. Gabrielle's journey mirrors what Kelly Langford embodies every single day. That God's strength doesn't mean you don't break, it means you break open. And in that breaking open, you find a resilience you didn't know existed. You find the courage to forgive, even when forgiveness feels impossible. You find the wisdom to seek solitude, not as loneliness, but as sanctuary. You find the audacity to practice radical self love, to look in the mirror and say, I'm not okay, and that's okay. I'm still worthy. I'm still here. I still matter. Because here's the truth we don't say out loud enough, the truth that Kelly Langford is living proof of. Healing from PTSD, from depression, from anxiety, from the kind of anger that feels like it's the only thing keeping you upright, healing from all of that is possible. Not in a just pray harder and it'll all go away kind of way. That's not real. That's not honest. I'm talking about healing in a find the resources, do the actual work, protect your peace like it's sacred, and let faith be the foundation kind of way. After her divorce, Kelly found solitude. She carved out space for self care. And I don't mean the Instagram version. I mean the real, unglamorous, sometimes uncomfortable work of learning to be alone with yourself again. She learned to love herself again, not the version everyone needed her to be, not the version that kept everyone else comfortable, but the real her, the one who was tired, the one who was angry, the one who needed to grieve without a timeline, without an audience, without someone telling her to hurry up and get over it. And then came the unthinkable. Her son was murdered. And if you've never experienced that kind of loss, I don't know if words can even capture it. It's the kind of loss that doesn't just break your heart, it shatters your entire understanding of the world, of safety, of justice, of how life is supposed to unfold. But even in that heartbreak, even in that rage and confusion and unbearable sadness, Kelly made a choice. She chose to forgive those who had a part in her trauma. And let me be clear, this wasn't about them. This was about her. Because holding on to that anger, that bitterness, that need for revenge, it would have been another kind of death, a slower one, a quieter one, but a death nonetheless. Let me tell you about Keisha Hunter. She's a Black entrepreneur who rebuilt her entire life after becoming a teen mother and dropping out of school. Keisha faced systemic barriers that were designed to keep her down. She faced personal setbacks that would have made most people give up. She faced emotional anger from early life disruptions that mirrored the kind of upheaval Kelly experienced. But Keisha made a decision. She prioritized self care. She leaned into faith as her foundation, not as a crutch, but as a source of power. She created legacy building events to cope with anxiety and depression. She turned her pain into platforms. And in doing so, she achieved something extraordinary. She achieved softness alongside strength. She proved that you don't have to choose. You can be both. You can be tender and tough. You can be vulnerable and victorious. Keisha's story is a testament to what Kelly Langford teaches us, that healing resources aren't just about therapy apps, though those matter. They're not just about support groups, though those are vital. They're about creating rituals of rest, weekly self care that's non negotiable, forgiveness practices that free you from the weight of bitterness, faith driven resources that remind you that you're not walking this road alone, that there's a strength beyond your own that's available to you if you're willing to reach for it. And here's where it gets beautiful. Here's where survival transforms into something sacred, something that doesn't just heal you, but heals everyone you touch. Kelly took the heartbreak of losing her son and she turned it into the Fun Violence Brunch, a free annual event for anyone who has lost a child or someone to gun violence or to any other form of violence or tragedy. Every October, she opens her arms and her heart to a community of people who understand that kind of pain, who know what it's like to have your world turned upside down in an instant. And every year, it grows because pain shared is pain halved, because purpose born from trauma is the most powerful kind. Because when you turn your worst day into an annual gathering of hope, you're not just surviving, you're leading a revolution. This is what it means to transform pain into purpose. This is what it looks like when you refuse to let tragedy write your ending. This is the soft girl era in its truest, most powerful form. Let me tell you about Jade Phoenix B. Jade. She's a Black woman who rebuilt her life with dignity after trauma that could have destroyed her. She grappled with heartbreak, with anxiety, with anger from personal upheavals similar to divorce and profound loss. But Jade did something that most of us struggle with for years, sometimes for a lifetime. She forgave the contributors to her pain, not because they deserved it, because she did. She embraced strategic peace protection, creating boundaries that honored her healing. She used faith driven resources to cope with PTSD. And she held her head high, converting survival into empowered self leadership, into a life that was no longer defined by what happened to her, but by who she chose to become in spite of it. Jade's journey captures what Kelly Langford lives every day. That forgiveness isn't about letting people off the hook, it's about unhooking yourself from the pain. That self care isn't selfish, it's survival. That solitude isn't loneliness, it's sanctuary. And that strength from God doesn't mean you don't feel the weight, it means you're not carrying it alone. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. That's beautiful, that's inspiring. But how? How do I do that when I'm drowning? When the anger feels like the only thing keeping me upright? When the depression is so heavy I can't see past tomorrow? When the anxiety is so loud I can't hear my own thoughts? Here's what Kelly Langford and these incredible women teach us. You start with one thing, one healing action today, right now. You identify your top emotional trigger. Is it anger? Is it anxiety? Is it the crushing weight of expectations that were never yours to carry in the first place? Name it, say it out loud. Then seek one free resource, a therapy app, a faith based support group, a podcast that speaks to your soul, a book that feels like it was written just for you, and commit to one weekly self care ritual, a walk where you're not solving problems or managing crises, a bath where you're not multitasking, a moment of silence where you're not fixing, managing, or performing. And then this is the part that changes everything. This is the part that turns your healing into a movement. Channel that growth into supporting one person in your community, just like Kelly does with her Fun Violence Brunch. Because healing in isolation is survival, healing in community is revolution. This is the soft girl era. This is what it means to unlearn survival mode and step into softness. Not the kind of softness that's weak or passive or easily dismissed. The kind that's so deeply rooted in self-love and faith that it becomes unshakable. The kind that says, I've been through hell and I'm still here and I'm going to make sure nobody else has to walk through that fire alone. Kelly Langford is teaching us that you can hold grief and joy at the same time, that you can be broken and whole, that you can forgive and still protect your peace, that you can turn the worst day of your life into an annual gathering of hope that grows every single year. So here's what I need you to hear. Here's what I need you to feel. You've been strong for so long. You've survived things that should have broken you. You've carried burdens that were never yours to carry, and you're still here, still standing, still breathing, still fighting. And that matters. That means something. But survival was never the goal. Thriving is, living is, joy is, peace is, softness is. So here's my challenge to you. Today, right now, before you move on to the next thing, before you put that cape back on, before you go back to performing strength, choose one healing action, one resource, one ritual, one person to support. And watch what happens when you stop performing and start practicing. Watch what happens when you let God's strength unlock the resilience you never knew you had. Watch what happens when you transform your pain into purpose. Because Kelly Langford is proof that is possible. Gabrielle Brown is proof. Keisha Hunter is proof. Jade Phoenix B. Jade is proof. And you're next. You've got this. God's got you. And your soft girl era isn't coming. It's already here. It's been waiting for you. And it's time to step into it unapologetically, powerfully, softly. It's time to take off the cape. It's time to come home to yourself. It's time to heal. It's time to live. And it starts right now.